quick.
I've got a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Probably second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any against? Okay, we had executive session. There were no actions. We had executive session. There were no actions taken. The first item, Project LM update.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Manning.
I move the staff proceed as directed in the executive session with regard to Project LM, and specifically it relates to the source of income and funding we discussed.
Got a motion, it's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? Next item, library lease update. Mr. Manning. Mr.
I
Livingston.
move that we proceed as discussed in executive session with the county attorney.
I've got a motion.
Second.
It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? Item C, did he leave? We didn't need a action on that. Okay.
That's
They were just letting them know, that administration.
Mr. Chairman,
Item
we
D.
better just say that
Okay.
I make a motion that we proceed.
For the record, you agree?
Yeah.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. You want to make it?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I move that we proceed, that staff proceed as directed with regard to that matter in executive session.
Okay, got a motion. It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any against? Item D, SE public interest. That was for information only. All right. That's all of the executive session items. Next item is motion period. The first item, 19A, I move that council review all policies and guidelines. I will, did you want to explain that? Any clarification on what that means, Mr. Jackson?
Yes. In most cases, I'm hearing we have certain policies, or we have, but then when we adjust those policies, I'm hearing there are guidelines. So I need to review all these policies or so-called policies or guidelines so we can get a clear understanding. Some of these policies were developed maybe over 30 years ago, and they need to be reviewed. And I've asked with a motion approximately a year ago, and I haven't seen anything yet. So I'm like repeating the motion again that we review all policies and guidelines. I'm in a meeting and I'm told, well, that's a policy. So I need to know what these policies are, have a copies of it, so we can go through all policies that's available.
I mean, do we want individually, staff to give us any guidelines or policies we have and we go through it, or?
We can go to committee, we can
I mean,
prioritize them.
what committee are you on?
We're gonna have to hire staff to do that.
Yeah, because that's a lot.
I mean, the rules and appointments are in a committee that deals with rules and procedures.
I mean, we could send, and I had it down to go to rules, but at the same time, are you on rules?
No.
Do you want to get on rules so you can help go through that process?
I'll just visit them.
The meeting.
I'll just visit them and I'll be at the meetings. I mean, leave this the structure as it is. I don't want to be on the rules
Well-
just because I did a motion.
Well, I want you to make sure we're vetting them, though. Okay, all right. Well, I'll send that to rules.
Mr. Chairman, I'll temporarily resign from that committee to allow Mr. Jackson to sit in my seat until that's resolved, if that would be helpful to the process of the whole county.
I'm fine, my fellow councilman. I will just visit whenever need be.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll send that to rules. Richland County has a non-discrimination, equal opportunity policy. Council shall develop an action plan that holds the administrator and staff accountable. Yeah, please explain. I think the law itself accounts for this, so.
Well, we have an equal opportunity non-discrimination plan, but if someone commits or violates that plan, there's no action. For example, if a staff member violates a plan or a policy, they can be dismissed or reprimanded. But when senior staff violates that plan, if they do, right, there's no action to say, well, you shall be reprimanded or dismissed.
There's no different rules.
All right, I'll send that to rules as well. The administrator and staff shall abide by all policies, directive, guidelines, ordinance set by council, and action shall be developed to address violators. I'm trying not to load rules up, but
Well,
It's all the same stuff.
They'll realize it's all the same stuff and that you can do, it's already in place anyway, so.
No, clarification.
you want to clarify your motion, huh?
It's not in place. What I'm saying is that if we, of course, based on certain things happened recently, and we are in executive session, which I won't discuss, right? If we have a policy, right, we need to be able to look at the rules and say, if you did this violation, here are the penalties or what will happen, or the action that will be taken.
You mean
And
on the
we-
staff level?
Yes, and we can go by it, right, and implement those actions. Right now, we're just saying is, it exists, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, let me ask you a question. The way we operate, being that we hire the administrator to set forth those guidelines and rules, it's up to him to set those rules. And now, if we having issues with the way things are run, we take that up with the administrator. But as far as setting the rules and
I thought council approved those rules and guidelines.
not
Mr.
policy,
Attorney?
I mean, not guidelines that the administrators.
We do ordinance.
To the attorney, this council, do we approve the policies or guidelines? Or is just administrator and we have nothing to do with it?
Okay, Mr. Smith?
To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Jackson, council approves some policies, and I think that there are certain guidelines that will brought the council for approval, such as those, I believe, that were, let's say we changed the handbook, and we changed some of the guidelines in the handbook. I think all that information was brought forward to council, and I think council approved it. So just depending upon what area you're referring to, there were certain, I think, procedural things that may have been left on the hand of the administrator, and that may have to be something that Mr. Hannah may be able to better explain. But there were certain guidelines that were brought to council for their approval, and there are certain policies which council approved as well.
Thank you very much. So I just want to visit those.
Mr. Pierce?
I believe the second motion that you made, the second motion, specifically references the county administrator. Is that not correct? And therefore,
Yep.
that would be, the appropriate course of action there would be his contract, which would be administration.
That is true, right?
I mean, if you were looking for a procedure to hold the administrator accountable, then we would have to do that via his contract.
Understand, but I want something in writing to say if this certain thing is violated, right, then what steps do we take is written so we have an understanding, and no one just guessing and trying to say, well, there's no rules and nothing is done. I just want something in
We can't
writing.
hold him to a rule that's not in his contract.
I understand, but if this county has an equal opportunity non-discrimination policy,
That needs to be in his contract, that.
well,
the
okay, well, I
administrator
move that we
will-
put it in his contract then, that if he violates any of the policies, he's held accountable.
Then that needs to go to administration and finance,
Okay, well, we send to administration and finance.
not rules.
Don't let it go, you got it.
So item C goes to A and F.
Okay,
Item D, I move that administrator and procurement director do a workshop to present the difference between what consultant Franklin Lee provided the council for a disparity study and what the procurement director changes and differences are. Can you explain that, please?
yes, at what, I think the last meeting or the meeting before, the procurement director said that she created, change for the study, the disparity study. She created her own rules and didn't follow the rules that was approved by this council. And my concern is if we paid this consultant to develop these rules for the disparity study, and the procurement director came in and changed it, I need to know what's been changed.
But you're asking for a workshop on
A
this.
workshop to explain, or something to
But
explain what has been
how
changed.
about this? How about if the administrator can find out the difference and then report back to council on if there's any differences in,
Well, you want a clarification?
No, I'm going to agree with Mr. Jackson on this one because some things have dropped out throughout this whole process. And we need to stay on top of it. Now, she took it upon herself to pull RFPs from different locales to develop this RFP for the disparity study. This disparity study is very important to this county. And if we're going to move forward with the programs we're talking about, we got to make sure that thing is tight and going out the door. So that's why I favor that motion.
well, can administration bring back the procurement, the Franklin Lee's scope of services and the scope of services did he create a scope of services for the disparity study?
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of Mr. Lee doing a specific scope of services, but that doesn't mean that he didn't. I'm just not aware that he did. I know he did a lot of things with respect to the SLBE program. He wrote the SLBE ordinance and several things connected with the program itself. Whether or not he ever did an actual scope of services to issue for a disparity study, I don't know.
Do we have information on that?
I'll check.
Do we
and I'll
have-
find that out.
May I still have the floor?
Go ahead.
The procurement director said she changed it and created her own for the disparity study.
Okay,
And
so-
that's where I have concern,
Okay.
because if we did something and we approved something, and the procurement director came and changed it without us knowing what has been changed, I do have concern. to
So
compare it.
so you're saying that the information does exist? Franklin Lee's information does exist?
That's what I.
Let me
No,
clarify.
it doesn't.
What I asked the administrator to do when we had a discussion last meeting was for them to have, I keep forgetting to push the button, for them to have Franklin Lee review whatever the procurement director put together. And that's all we were talking
That's right.
about. Just have him review that to make sure we haven't left anything out. Because if we get down the road and we find out we left something out, it's going to be detrimental to us.
Yep, but her statement was that she changed and created her own.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
something was changed, and that's my concern.
Okay, Mr. Livingston.
Mr. McDonald, please inform council that this is no different from the way RFPs are done for other things and all throughout this county. We pulled from other places, put it together. We've done that with the program development team. That's how you develop RFPs.
That is right. And I believe that's what the procurement director indicated that she had done, was she pulled from other existing RFPs that had been issued by other jurisdictions, both locally and across, I think, the southeast, and pulled from those different documents what she felt would be good and fit for the RFP that we may issue here. Now, again, I don't recall her saying that she had changed the RFP, and again, I could be wrong, but I don't know that she changed anything that Franklin Lee did, but if she did, I'll check that. But you're correct, Mr. Livingston, what she did, I think we typically do when we do RFPs, especially RFPs where we haven't issued for those types of services before, like the disparity study.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manning?
Mr. Chairman, do we have an OSBO committee, ad hoc committee? Some
Yes.
such thing? Could it go there as opposed to a workshop?
We could either there or DNS, but yeah, OSB, it can go to OSB.
Yeah, but just clarification, I just want to make sure, right, what the procurement director is doing is the intent of council. I understand we can develop anything through negotiating, right? But as I understand, as Councilman Washington said, there are certain things has been taken out. We want to make sure the intent, especially based on the referendum that we would do to do the disparity study, we have to have these figures. And to the promise to the small and local business about quick pay and all that, right? I want to make sure it's in there.
And if I still have the floor, Mr. Chairman, I certainly agree with that. I'm trying to figure out just what committee or what vehicle, the motion's about a workshop or work session, and I'm just thinking there's a better
Committee's fine.
vehicle
Yeah, I
to do
think
that.
yeah.
I would do it to the committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
the Office of Small Business Opportunity Ad Hoc Committee is meeting on Tuesday, the 28th.
This
If
would
that's
be
something
ideal.
that Mr. Washington and Mr. Jackson would like to have that presented at that time.
That would be good.
We'll send it to OSBO. Ms. Dickerson, you good with that?
No, I have a
Okay,
question.
yeah.
My question is to Mr. McDonald. In when the procurement director drafted her document and she pulled from various other counties or various other venues to create this document, since she has created that document, is there any way that before we put it out, that Mr. Lee can actually review that document and make sure that what is in the ordinance is actually addressed in the document that the procurement director has drafted? And if the document that she has drafted contains everything that Mr. Lee has proposed, would you let me know that?
Yeah, and
That's all I need to know.
I think I'm losing my voice, but yes, I'll let you know. In fact, I'll let the full council know if there are any discrepancies between
What
what
she has drafted.
she has drafted and what Mr. Lee would have included had he done it again.
Now, do I still have the floor?
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
ma'am.
I'm just thinking, I
And then
apologize.
if that is the case, when this is sent to, hopefully do you think we'll be able to have that information by the time the OSBO office, the ad hoc committee have their meeting, and so that can be addressed at that meeting?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, I will do our very
See,
best.
See, can you get that done?
And I would make just one other point. The document that the procurement director put together was actually reviewed by Ms. Tanner, who is now our consultant working on the OSBO program. She did review it, and she was a subcontractor under Franklin Lee early on in the development of the SLBE ordinance. So there is that connectivity, and Ms. Tanner has approved the document. But if
But
Yes.
forget about Ms. Tanner at this moment. The person we want to actually talk about is Mr. Lee.
Yes, and
Now
we can
let
do that.
Ms. Tanner and Mr. Lee agree on that document. You
And
know,
we
I
can-
mean, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Lee drafted the document. Ms. Tanner came on, so just make sure that they
Right.
are in agreement with this document.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We can
All
do
right,
that.
Mr. Livingston.
Mr., based on previous invoices and so forth, you have an idea what it would cost for Mr. Lee to review that document? Because we might, according to what my colleagues said, we might want to just put them on staff.
Well, we could do that. We don't put.
In terms of what it would cost, because that's why we hire folks in the county to do the job for the county. But do you have an idea what that cost would be?
Yeah, Mr. Livingston, I couldn't say if it's simply reviewing a document. I wouldn't imagine that it would be that significant, but I would hate to say it'll be $1,000 and then it'd be $5,000.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss this during.
All right, let's go to the committee, I forgot.
Yeah,
Well,
let's go on.
thank you. It's going to.
But no, but she was saying to
it's
do
going-
that before. I thought Ms. Dickinson was saying have that information before it goes to get to the committee.
Because
I understand why, that's why I was making my
unless
point.
we want to have a workshop, I mean, you know what?
No.
I mean, so we can, if we need to hire them if that's the case. I mean, but if we want to get the information, it's the same as bringing them here, flying them down here, going through a workshop and having us go through all that. I don't really see any difference.
Well, who's the chair of that committee? Ms. Dickerson, are you still the chair?
No, I'm not on it. I was removed.
There's no chair this time, so they will have to.
Okay,
on the
so
chair.
this is the first meeting?
Yes, sir.
We're all on it.
This is the first meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Is that where it's gonna go?
All right, yeah, it's going to the OSBO office. All right. Got a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
I mean,
It's been properly second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any against?
Nay.
It's gonna have to do everything we do, we might as well not do it.